Yo, Pierre, you want to come out here?
NANI?!
Here's another late development, and this news keeps coming in as we're talking here.
Pretty much good. So we all good with that?
Sound like a play.
All right, cool. Then we'll get into introductions. All right, how y'all doing? Welcome to the Books and Beyond, the Male Book Club. We did it. We finally got ourselves a book club, and today I am your host, Heero, and I have with me JB, Black, Rob, Bass. Down in the corner, I see you. Real quick, you guys say what's up.
What's up?
What's going on, everybody? Looking forward to this discussion.
And what we're trying to do here today is indulge the minds of the Black man and basically give ourselves the opportunity to express ourselves a little bit, because why shouldn't we have a book club? And today we're reading the Spook That Sat by the Door. We're doing a chapter review for 1 through 5. And before we get into the book and how we even came about this, just real quick, Black, what's up? How you doing, man? How's your week been?
Long week, man. Every week, same thing. 70 plus hours of work.
Hey,
Be a dad. Same shit, different toilet.
What about you, JB? What's been up?
Man, just getting it done, man. Same as Black, just working, trying to climb the corporate ladder, trying to make a name for myself. So this book was, it speak to me.
Hey, this book is talking to you.
Yeah.
What about you, Rob? What's good?
Hey, man, same as JB and Black, same thing. I think I've been working remote since March, and it wasn't until like this past week I finally got an actual work desk. So, man, I feel different actually sitting in the chair.
Feel official?
Hey,
You got the kitchen tables?
Bro, I was down. Oh, man.
Man, I wish I could change up the tune, but really, every day is exactly the same now. To tell you the truth, ever since this pandemic hit, and it's affected all aspects of life, but I've also, just been trying to keep up with the news cycle. Like, I got the podcast, so every day is just something new, and it's just like, bro, can y'all just take a break for one day? But this is our break right here, and this is going to be our getaway from the sights and sounds of the world. This is our safe space, and we're letting y'all into this world. So we welcome you guys to Books and Beyond. The Male Book Club. So we're gonna get right into it in the chapter review. Just a show of hands. This is a safe space. Who all actually made it to chapter 5? Let's just come on, be real. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm guessing that's probably why we made it on.
Exactly.
If y'all didn't make it to chapter 5, man, I recommend y'all pick up the audio for y'all that
I'm gonna keep it real. I bootlegged my book, and that's probably why I have chapter 6 issues right now.
Okay, because look, when you said that, I'm like, all right, look, let me buy this audio, because I ain't opened up my book all the way. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna buy this.
But similar to Heero, when I read chapter 5, and we'll get to it, I'm like, wait a minute, this book just took a spin. I had to read it again.
And we'll get to it. Let's go ahead and start off with chapter 1, and just open-minded. I immediately gonna tell you, as soon as I read like 4 paragraphs into chapter 1, and I immediately said, "Wow, who picked this book?" Because I was like, whose idea?
Rob picked the book.
Rob picked the. Okay, this is Rob's book. I was like, yeah, I'm leaving this book club because
But no, this. So I'm big on watching interviews. And Star's been interviewed, and Nip had an interview on the Breakfast Club where he spoke highly of this book. So I'm like, one day I'm gonna read this book. And then when this whole idea of the book club came out, this is a perfect opportunity for me to read this book.
Okay. And I have to admit, when I thought Somerville was going to be our main character, and I was going to be I was like, man, this some bull. Like, who is this? And the first
Because
thing
I sure ain't fuck with the senator and his wife.
yeah, I was like,
I'm
okay.
like, what's going on, man?
Me personally, after Black Panther, I promised myself I'm no longer reading no more sad black slave stories. I'm no longer watching no more sad slave movies. Oh, we got to show y'all. No, I get it. I heard the stories. I've read enough about it. I'm experiencing it now. After seeing Black Panther, all I want to see is black excellence. So when I started reading this immediately, I was like, man, here go these motherfuckers again. But I was trying to remain positive, but chapter 1 was basically this setup of a senator who's and the names are really irrelevant because they really make them irrelevant. He calls them very generic names, and this speaks to something that happens later on in chapter 3 that he does and says, like the sir and Mr. part. It speaks to this part right here where it happens. He calls these people very generic names, but you notice he's upset with Somerville. He's upset with Somerville, and Somerville is the token black guy in this room. It's a room full of white people. They're trying to make up a strategy to how to get black people to vote for them, which is very pertinent to our current situation. And all of a sudden, you know, he says, you know, Somerville, we're going to give you another shot or some shit like this. Come back into this room. And the first thing that happened to me that made me think was like, damn, they gave this dude a shot, but did they really give him a shot? Like, was I the only one that noticed that he didn't say anything?
Yeah. So they told him his suggestions. Like he gave us some real good recommendations, but he just telling him what he think. You know, and you see that pop back up again in chapter 3 too. You kind of talked about it, like they have their own ideas and all their thoughts about us, and they basically put us in the room to make us feel like we are part of the decision making.
Yeah, but he said that though. He said that in chapter 1. He said, "All I do is just say what I think they gonna, what they already want."
So and that's got to be a painful existence. You know, we all work. I'll be damned. I don't tell you how many times I've stepped out of a medical office, been like, "So did y'all need me today?" Because I could have stayed at the crib. You just called me for surgery. I don't need to be here for y'all discussions. Like, y'all already got the plan. Just call. You don't have to pat my back. I'm beyond that. But that's got to be something. I didn't know that was something that people were experiencing back then. Like, even back then, they had this way in mind. So
they probably more so because of back then that they had to do shit like that.
But that's kind of crazy because, and I'm saying it, I'm not surprised. I didn't think that thought process had come that far along already. I thought this was nuanced right now. It's been nuanced since the 60s. That right there.
It's been nuanced since
like slavery.
The house nigga. Yeah, it's been nuanced since the house nigga.
Okay, so that kind of set me back a little bit. Then from that point on, I was just like, oh, okay, I gotta take this book serious. Like, I can't disrespect this book no more. I gotta take it serious because the nuance was just hit me so hard. And you know, you mentally aware of it, but like we all in this world, and for some strange reason, like being black, especially being black men in any working field, we already have the target on our back. And some people choose to, you know, walk in the light. Me, I don't care so much, man. Hey, I'm here to save your life. If you don't like me, that's on you. You gonna die today. Like, it's just on you. I'm not playing with you. Like, do I look? I wear a do-rag into the office, man. You know I don't care.
You got no waves, man.
Man, I gotta keep the hair flat though. Shoot, you don't want these things, man. Those, like, you gotta wear the surgery cotton, like the surgical cotton hats, man. They suck all the moisture out your hair, so I gotta keep the do rag on, man.
Oh man,
I come into surgery with the do rag on, and I let everybody. I dare somebody to say something to me. I dare you. You love them, right? You better let me wear what I want to wear. But chapter 1 kind of ended on that high note where we get word of the senator. You know, he eventually does win. They concoct this plan where they're going to basically paint a target on someone else's back. You know, it's one of those things where they have the black person on their team already, so they can point to any other team and say, you don't got a black person, so you're racist. And you see this. His
wife said it too.
Oh no! For real. The wife is the mastermind. The wife is the smartest person in the room.
She's the smartest person in the room. In that room, she was like, "Yeah, we can pretty much point out anybody for that, because that in our whole lifetime it'd still be the same way. Like till today, niggas still getting awards for being the first black person to get it. Like, what the fuck?"
And that was something that really baffled me. I was like, "Damn, there's still black people out here who haven't been the first of something." Like, that really baffled. So chapter 1. while it started off extremely like mundane and slow, I thought it was gonna be some bullshit. But immediately I said to myself, not only do I have to get the real version of this book, I'm gonna have to start taking it serious because I didn't want it. Once I got to chapter 6, I noticed that shit was missing. I was heated because I was pushing past 6. I was like, oh no, I need to figure out what's going on. But we go up into chapter 2, and we meet our protagonist, the man of the hour, Freeman. Everybody, just go around real quick and just talk about what your impressions of Freeman was at that point. Rob?
I think for me, Freeman reminded me of a lot of people from the crib. And what I mean crib, I mean Chicago. A lot of people were actually from the inner city.
No, for sure. And Rob, Freeman is from Chicago. Well, wait. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is from Chicago.
He is.
Yeah.
All right.
It was real spot on.
Man, Freeman remind me of he remind me a lot of myself, honestly, and I think a lot of us can kind of see that as you try to navigate the corporate world. And you know, it reminds me back to when my mom actually, I wanted to go to a HBCU out of TF North, and she was like, you already know how to navigate your world. You need to figure out how to navigate their world before you even stepping into it, because what you want to do. So I mean, you know, having to be like, oh, I can't blow my cover. Like, I think about that all the time, but it's not like blowing a cover. It's just like, this is who I am. But also, like, sometimes having to scale back, like, how intelligent I actually am, because I don't want you to feel threatened by my intelligence. And I've come a long way since then. I stepped into, like, first coming into that world.
What about you, Black?
I fuck with him, but for me, it's more so I see, you know, all of you guys that do that is in the corporate world, because I'm not. I never had to deal with that. I talk to these motherfuckers how I feel like it all day, every day, even in the service. I used to go through that where the white boys be something. I just, regardless of their rank, I let them know who I'm not off back. I never really had to deal with it. Put the perception on so I can make it past that, because while in the service, being black is a benefit, because nigga, I'm more fucking physical than the rest of them. I might want the best runner, but I'm still getting the high scores in pretty much everything, especially tests and shit like that. Never failed the test. So as far as that portion of the CIA, I ain't had to deal with that, because the Marine Corps is a little bit less racist than it was 10 years ago. It's still racist as fuck. Yeah, but but yeah, it's a little different for me.
The first thing that popped into my mind when I was reading about Freeman was a black James Bond. That was the first thing that kind of resonated with me. I was just like, if this is the origin story of James Bond, I'm about to fucking got excited after that point.
Because he already had his own plan.
Yeah, he had, and that's what it really became, and that's when you really start to get in, because you want to learn more about this dude called Freeman. So he has a bunch of altercations, and JV, you talked about the HBCU lifestyle, and I went to an HBCU, and it's so interesting hearing that perspective about how your mom told you, no, don't do the HBCU because you've already navigated that world. While in my mind, I said to myself, I already know how to navigate this world, therefore I can move faster through it to what I want. There's people there that have already done what I'm trying to do, and that's what I kind of got from there. So it's very interesting, but they really do put the HBCU world out there. You figure out that his light-skinned rival, you just know Freeman's a dark-skinned dude for some reason. I don't know why.
But he MC though, so we never know.
Well, yeah, like you just know.
What him being the MC got to do with anything?
He might not actually be dark. He might be dark.
You know, it was kind of crazy to just see this situation unfold. But he runs into, his mini boss, which is this Kappa and a few Greek people. And it's just methodical how, he depicts and understands how they're being selected. He knows who's going to have the toughest time as far as, homosexuality being an issue. He has an issue with people who are doing drugs and stuff like that. He's able to decipher these things. Like, what gave you pickup signs that, Freeman was going to be the one?
I felt like he did a good job of reading the other characters and without saying it, identify what their weaknesses were and kind of just stood in the shadows even when he was confronted by them, right? Because I feel like a lot of other people view him as less than because he didn't talk like they did. He didn't dress like they did. All the while, he was just sitting there like, oh, okay, I'm going to let my actions do the speaking. I'm not going to say anything.
But the most
I feel like that's what they were looking for.
And the most part, he was doing everything he could to not be seen because they was actually looking to just put to get rid of all the black people, say they wasn't good enough. Like they was doing that shit all through the first 5 chapters. How Buddy was saying how they not smart enough for everything, shit like that.
Yeah, but to your point, Black, he was trying not to be seen, and they were saying how we wouldn't fit in because we can't blend in.
It's the hypocrisy of that statement. Yeah. The hypocrisy of the fact that that the moment when he met the general, and I'm skipping over a very key point. We'll get back to Calhoun and then, but when he was talking with the general, and the general literally had to say, "How did you miss him?" He's like, "Oh, It's one of those people that you see his face, you forget him once you see him, you forget what he says up front." Literally the definition of a field agent, someone you would want. And he's defined him through his errors, but their arrogance and the hypocrisy of the whole not wanting to acknowledge, black people for being capable. But we get the first real conflict, which is the Calhoun and Freeman fight. This is the judo master and Calhoun and Freeman fight. And there was something that made me feel really uncomfortable about listening to this fight because 2 things happened immediately in this fight. One, you realize Calhoun doesn't really own this fight. It's a white man impersonating another culture to dominate our culture. And there's something that Calhoun is a straight up racist. He's a loud racist. He's the type of racist you want. You want to be able to. I like my racists loud. I like them to say the N word. I like to know where they're coming from. I like to be able to put my red eye dot on him. The racists I'm afraid of the most are the ones that shake my hand and say you're qualified, but you couldn't. We can't use you right now. Those are the ones that I don't like because there's nothing I can do to them. I have to accept their racism. Calhoun is the best type of racist, and somebody I would, after beating his ass, I would invite him over for a drink because you know the extent of his hate. You know how far it's gonna go. But how cathartic was that ass whooping? Like, what was it about that ass whooping that like really put you over the hump?
I mean, the whole time we knew it was gonna happen. Like, and Freeman been waiting on this moment. Like whether it's, and we talked about it a little bit, like when he was sizing up all the other black people in the room from where they from, he like just waiting on somebody to try him. Like I'm just waiting on somebody to try this, but also still I can't give my cover up of how good I really am, and how skilled I really am. So that was what caught me. Like I can really handle him without even breaking a sweat for real. Like that's really what he did.
We sized him up first though. Even during the fight, he made sure he knew that he had him. He just saying he was overconfident how some of us would be. I had to go through that in the service where I was in boot camp. At the end of boot camp, we got the crucible, and then during the crucible, it's like 3-4 days of us not barely sleeping, just straight up physical activity every day. And at the end of it, we get the box. We get the box somebody. We call this motherfucker out, and this is white boys. Me and my boy, both from Chicago. We knew who he's fucking up. These white squad leaders. So it was like, all right, cool, I got this dude. So this one dude's talking shit to me fucking for the past like week and a half. Like, yeah, I want to fight Chester. The beginning, before the crucible started. I'm like, cool. Time to fight. He comes to the side. He's like, yeah, Chester, I don't want to fight you no more, bro. It's all good. We all cool. I'm like, okay, cool. Drill instructor's like, who you want to fight, Chester? I'm like, this motherfucker. He looked out. He was so fucking scared, bro. I fucked him up, bro. I broke one of his ribs. And in the crucible, we're not supposed to punch each other in the face. But since I was bodying him up, I broke one of his ribs. He hit me in the face. So at that point, I got the knock, bro. I was beating the dog shot. But drill instructor, they stopped the fight because all the drill instructors was around. But later on, my drill instructor pulled us to the side. Like, yeah, y'all fucked the motherfuckers up, man. I'm so happy y'all did that shit. Because these white boys talking shit, bro. My boy knocked the other niggas out. He didn't go for the body punch at all. He went straight in there. and just straight up knocked him out. We on the sideline dying. But yeah, Drill started to pull us to the side, like, man, I'm so happy y'all beat their ass, bro. But he's like, I'm gonna teach y'all some different shit because it was a couple times y'all could just knock him out with them body punches. But yeah, I fucked that white boy. He tried to switch up quick at the end of boot camp. Like, nah, bro, we cool. I'm like, all right, cool.
Nah, you gonna
Who
feel
want to fight Chester? I want to fight him.
you gonna feel every piece of this shit.
He felt all that shit. He had a hard time finishing fucking the rest of boot camp because his rear was fucked up, and then MCT was fucked up.
What about you, Rob? What was it?
I think JB and Black hit it on the head. I think going into it, like they said, he already sized him up. He knew his weaknesses. He knew his go-tos. He was like, oh, I'm going to wait for him to do this, and then soon he do this, I'm going to show him.
Yeah. Another thing
that hip toss and them shoulder throws be a motherfucker, bro. And it's simple. You can pretty much hip toss or shoulder throw anybody, bro. No matter how small you is, it's so easy to do it.
Yeah.
When you come up, it's basically putting your ass into it. So you dip down, you put your ass on wherever you want to put it, and you lift up while you pulling them. And when they coming down, man, that can kill them. Yeah. You can kill them motherfucker with a shoulder throw. Yeah. Hip toss, you can break something, but a shoulder throw, yeah, you can kill them.
Yeah. The thing that I also wanted to point out in this fight was the referee Sue or so. Yeah. His immediate you know that he's been treated wrong by Calhoun. You know he has. Like without him even talking about his experience, he doesn't say anything. And the one thing he does say is he forces Calhoun to respect the tradition he stole from him. Like, hey, you can pretend to be part of me, but if you're going to pretend, you're going to also respect our traditions. And that was the first time I felt like Sue felt the need to hold Calhoun accountable. And that's when he really lost the fight, when he was held accountable. And that's when he had to leave. And like I said, my man's knew he lost. So he had to go. He packed up. Didn't think twice about it.
He showed that early when he made him bow.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He wouldn't go forward without you bowing. Like, we not going to keep fighting until you bow.
Exactly. So then we head up into chapter 3. And I don't know what the even hell I wrote here, but we have what we basically have is sort of like this love story now. Yeah. And
you gonna call it that with the toot?
You know what? But you want to know something? The reason why I call it a love story is because of the definition, the warrior queen that he calls her from the people of the 1904. Oh, it's the Delari people.
Yeah, I think he just like low key fucking told her she was better than what she was coming out to be. Instead of just, how she was saying how most guys come in and try to tell her, like, yeah, you don't have to do all this. He let her know. He just showed her, a way to, like, this ain't really for you, but, I ain't going to come out and say what you're doing is wrong because, it's your way of getting by.
I mean, I love that. Yeah, that was right there. That's a fact right there. But I just enjoy the fact of this small little, this passive aggressive way of telling her, like, hey, you don't have to live this lifestyle, but it's also not for me to tell you how you're going to live this life. But the thing that I really found so interesting about the definitions, in 1904, they were finally colonized by the French, which sort of ended their regime. And the red that they used to wear in their attire kind of disappeared from their culture. So it was kind of like this weird thing because they're in a point right now where that red doesn't exist. And sort of like Freeman saying, I want to bring this back. It's sort of foreshadowing what I think he wants to do. He's trying to bring something back. He's slowly reminding people he comes across who, by our definition, that doesn't look like a love story. But to him, no, this is a woman that's worth loving in my eyes. So he's
worth loving, but he just letting her know she worth loving. Not that he love her, because later on you see who he love, and then
and we'll get to that. But go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think the way he valued her or show her value, you kind of see that take place as she no longer just taking anybody, and she starts to move up a little bit. She valued herself more. And I think that's something that he's gonna do throughout the book too, is like show us our value throughout the book.
He just pretty much letting black women, like he letting you know he love black women, so he makes sure that they know that they are, who they are instead of just what they do.
But for what it's worth, do you think it's kind of strange that especially in today's climate, more than ever, the black man is somehow being pitted against black women. And I'm
Yeah,
not really here
that's
to
what I
tell.
was saying to you the other day. Like y'all want me to be like to put the spread it apart. I see that as a different issue. Than they were like, oh no, that's the same as Black Lives Matter. I'm like, nah, it's different,
You
bro.
know, it's different. And like I say it like this, and people always look at me strange, but black men are to black women as white men are to black men. Like
Yeah,
that contrast, like the overhanging theory is that white men constantly fucking with us and not giving us the benefit of the doubt, not letting us make it see past. And into some capacity, black men have done that to black women. And it was something very interesting when and the thing is, we never get this lady's name. So her name is Whore throughout the book, which is
yeah.
crazy. Like you can only identify her either through the red, on her dress or whore. But I'll say the lady in red for passive sakes. But the fact is, she never sold this man out. No one sold Freeman out. And it just speaks to the shield-like nature of black women for black men. The
But they
constant
couldn't.
protection.
Like it wasn't so much that they could say about him because he wasn't. He made sure that he was
And
doing what he's supposed to do everywhere he stepped instead of just
exactly.
in certain places.
So it then begs the question, do you think, and this is the question, do you think if she had dirt on him, she would have sold him out? JB.
For the proper amount of money. Okay.
Uh, I I don't think so because she loved him, and we talked about. Me and Black, we talked about that black women, black men kind of conversation a little bit too, and I was talking about it with my sister yesterday also, and I think it's just a woman's nature. Like I don't even think that it's like black women, black men. I think it's women in general. Like they just when they love, they protect at the same time. Like they're not gonna dime you out. And that's just kind of my thought process. It also person by person, everything. So with that situation, when she's getting questioned about him a little bit, like had she known anything, I don't think she would have dimed him out because that wasn't gonna make any difference with that conversation. And she loved him.
Black, you said she would sell him out.
I think so. I mean, after he gave her another 20, she told him more and more. I feel like the more 20 she got, the more she would have said. It wasn't. See, at the time, it wasn't even more so that she loved him. She was growing to like him because remember she was gay. She was like, man, for him, I damn near go. I like
Go
a man
straight.
for him.
Yeah.
I invite him to the crib, but that you got that other 20. Like, man, I already made what I would make for the whole weekend off this dude. And it wasn't so much that she could save, so I couldn't even say whether or not she had truly dimed him out. Because if he wasn't that fucking he just wasn't letting nothing out like that.
What about you, Rob?
I would need more information. I feel like it was too early on in their interactions of dealings, and then she didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And this the reason, and I would say she wouldn't have sold him out because for $20 she gave a little more information, but for $60 she could have made up a lie. And the fact that she didn't lie on his name is proof to me that she would have protected him no matter what. So that was just my oddball way of thinking about it. But we'll leave that to the people who weren't part of the discussion to kind of simmer on. Chapter 4, which was really when things got hot for me. The Sir versus the Mister. Now we get to get an ideal of Freeman's ideology, and you start to see this rebellious side of him, pop up. This is the first time in the story where we're in his head.
That's because that's when Joy came around, right?
Joy was chapter 5, I think.
Chapter 5, mid chapter 5.
That's when I see the change in him a little bit more, but I didn't like how it was. Okay, go ahead before.
Well, so we get a conversation, and this is kind of escaping me, but the conversation with he had a conversation. Who was he talking to in chapter 4?
When it came to him, that's when he started doing the tours, right?
The general.
The general. Okay, conversation with the general. Okay, so we get a snippet into his life. He's 1 year into this world that he's living in. He's working in this small office. He's making good money. He really has nothing to complain about, and he's sticking to his plan. But it baffles me that it was the secretary who kind of realized, who introduced us to he's not happy. You know, he's doing all these things he wants to do, and she's desperately trying to get his attention, but his focus is so focused in. But to us, the readers, we don't know what he's focused on. So when he gives this tour and he gets word back from General, this conversation that he's having with these
the senator. He was talking to the senator, bro. It was the same senator
the senator that got him in.
set it up.
So it's like, the senator who gets to see the fruits of his labor. Like, oh yeah, see this
or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, I got you in here, and it's like, he's hearing him talk about this. But do you think Freeman's conversation about, he worked as a social worker and he's trying to do this for Black community fell on deaf ears in that conversation? For a dude to have had gained so much respect in such a short amount of time, do you feel his conversation fell on deaf ears? Did they not heed the warning that he was kind of giving?
Well, I feel like before we get there, one interesting thing that I thought we were going to talk about was the secretary a bit more.
Yeah, that's why.
Go ahead. Because like for me, I glossed over that. I didn't like. I thought it was as in my mind. It was the startup to a cheap porno. That's what I thought it was.
But for me, I thought like she wanted him, but I feel like she would also try to use that against him, and I feel like that would have played on what he was trying to do. Because if he's trying to mess with this white woman and he's secretary of the general, it'll look bad.
But I mean,
she didn't put that little titty on him
two or three times. Hey, that's sexual harassment.
Okay, so you think she was a plot? Yeah. She was a plot. She was
white. Yeah, and then she realized like, damn, this nigga ain't like that.
He ain't biting.
And she like, and then she like, oh, this is what I want to do and stuff like. Because that was the conversation with as far as what he was doing was with her.
See, and that went right over my head. That went right over my head.
Yeah. But she like, man, I'm comfortable with this dude. Yeah, I'm looking forward to. She's trying to be the woman that get into the CIA. I don't know if they had women, but she was trying to get in there.
No, they didn't have women. It's crazy. You got to remember, they elected Obama before they even thought of Hillary. White man would trust the Black man first. It's just the man first. They just know that part. But I didn't even think.
They think little of they ladies.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why the feminist movement, and then Black women just joined on. It wasn't a thing for Black women.
No.
But that's what I was trying to say to Jeremiah. That's why we were talking about that.
But I mean, by all means, keep going, JB. What else did you want to speak on for?
No, so that kind of changed my perspective when she was white. I was trying to figure out, was she white or Black? I must have missed it. But that changed my perspective with her being a white woman. She was definitely, she might have been put up to it by the senator. But
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Man.
You mean the general?
Yeah. To see what we can get out of him, or see if we can, because they trying to get him out of there. They don't really want him there.
They put him
in the general. Like, look, the original plan was to just churn us through. Like, they wasn't really trying to get somebody in the position. They were just showing
he was just so good
to get somebody in the office. He was just so good. They couldn't get rid of him. So they was probably looking for a way to get rid of him.
And then I feel like for me, when I was reading it, the thing that made me identify her as not Black, right? I don't know exactly what she was, but I know she wasn't Black. But the whole theory of them not being anyone Black in the CIA.
Yeah.
So she was.
Well, Black, no, they was clean. They cleaned up and stuff like that. And they cooked, and they did everything that niggas did back then.
But
it
wasn't like not a secretary though.
Yeah.
So a secretary to a general was powerful. Exactly.
But she was the youngest too, inside of the other old white women that they had.
Yeah, I immediately knew she was white, but once again, I up until this point, man, the book did a real good job of deflecting that from me. Because for me, at that point, I'm already thinking like Freeman, like, all right, bitch, whatever you got to say, I ain't trying to hear it. Like, like I'm already thinking like Freeman. The book has done its job. I didn't pay attention to her because Freeman didn't pay attention to her. I'm following our protagonist, so I'm thinking.
And she noticed that, she like, man, you coming here every time, you never repay. Like, I'll be focused on what I got going on. I got work to do and stuff like that.
Man,
but he's trying to do the overplay for the underlay. You know what I mean? And the reason he got to that secretary position that he got for doing the tours because of the senator put that buzz in the general ear. Like, man, it's cool that you got him going around. Because the only reason the general told him to do the tour was because the senator was, it was them. Mm-hmm. Other than that, he wouldn't have that nigga doing nothing showing face, but he had to show face because he was the Black person that they had in there.
Yeah. So at that point, we get the Sir versus Mr. conversation, And I don't know when the first time this dawned on me that this is something that people do to me. But it happens more often than not because I'm 32 right now. But
Old ass.
thank you, man. I appreciate it. Got my hairline and everything still. I'm grateful. Grateful, man. But the first time I was called Mr. was by a police officer when I was 17. You know, he said, Mr. Abdullah, do you have a license on you? And I was 17 and I wasn't driving, so I didn't have a license on me. And I was like, no. He was like, well, sir, Mr. How am I supposed? And then I said, sir, back to him. And he said, and then this is when the officer corrected me, said, it's Officer so-and-so. And I was just like, you're still sir to me. So I don't like, you can go fuck yourself. Call my parents. Like,
Right.
And once again, this is me coming from a world where I grew up at TF North, where it was pretty diverse, and I don't ever remember running into police. But once again, my experience doesn't dictate how it was. I fight for people's rights and freedoms. I've never been in a cage, but I still fight for immigrant kids. Like
They walk me home every day.
So yeah, it's kind of one of those badass. but it was sort of this thing, this duality. So that was my experience with it. I just want to go quickly around. When was y'all first realization of that distinction of a white person trying to consolidate you or trying to tame you or trying to, circ you, JB?
So it wasn't even a white person when the Sir versus Mr. when I was first talking about it. So my brothers was a part of the nation when he first got out, and it was like talking about you. This is how you address certain people, you Sir and Mr. And I'm looking at them like they just people. Like I don't care, where the distinction is, because my parents have always taught me, respect. You got respect, be from older age, but you also got to give me respect to receive that respect. So my first time was actually with us, trying to I thought it was overdoing it, giving people respect that has never earned anything from me. So that was my first encounter.
For me, I always, as far as the respect thing, I'm gonna respect you until you give me a reason not to. I never was like, all right, I'm gonna be like closed out to people. That was never me. I'm a social dude, so I'm gonna give you respect until you give me a reason not to. It don't take long for me not, for that to happen. And I never experienced a Mr. versus Sir thing ever.
The other part of it that actually made me change my perspective, I probably was younger. When I first got out to Cal City, it was a lot more white people when we first got to Cal City, and I remember being at one of my friends or associates' house or whatever, and he calling his parents by their first name. And I remember when I first got to college, and one of my best friends, like the way they spoke around their parents, and I'm like, okay, maybe we overdo that whole Sir, Mr. First name, last name. Like my daughter and some of the friends that we associate with, like I always ask what you want her to call you, because this is what she gonna call you. She 3 years old. What you want her to call it, and it's never been like call me Mr. this or call me Sir that. So that's changed my complete perspective around that.
Rob,
it's a generational thing.
Yeah. Right. Well, what have you come across, Rob?
I think I feel like it's been a lot of occurrences, but I feel like the most memorable one, and like similar to JB, I intentionally made a decision to not go to a HBCU because I wanted to outshine white people, right? Going into a white profession, a white dominated profession. So the weekend before, and I went to quite a few schools, my life crazy, but the weekend before I left to go to Marquette, it's me and I have 5 younger brothers. So me and 2 of my younger brothers, we riding around. I think we're on like 80 or 90th and Commercial, right there by the McDonald's. And we get pulled over by a white shirt. It was like a sergeant lieutenant, right?
What the fuck?
Yeah. Ignorant, bro. And it's like 3 in the afternoon. It's like 3 in the afternoon, right? It's not like midnight. It's nothing like that.
You're a loser.
Right? So we get pulled over, and then he like license and registration. And then after that, he goes, oh, where are you gangbangers headed? Right? My shirt off. It's hot. It's the summer. I got tattoos. Immediately went to where you gangbangers headed. So I left, right? And then I was like, oh, and now I'm petty, right? But I've learned to be petty without being physical. And what I mean by that is my response was, if you're going to call me something, call me a student of Marquette University, because that's who I am, right? And then he was like, oh, I didn't know they let your kind in a school like that.
Like, we in the country club, right? Fool. What's up?
So now I got to be more petty, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, damn, what do I say to get under his skin? Because I got to get him back, right?
Because you know you're smarter than him.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I played to. I was like, actually, right? I'm smarter than you. I'm smarter than your wife. If you have a son, I'm smarter than your son. I'm smarter than your daughter. Anybody in your family, I'm smarter than, and I can still survive in this environment that I'm in right now. Right? So at that point, he got mad. And he like tried to grab me out the car. And another officer came and pulled him off me. And he was Hispanic. So they pulled the lieutenant away. Then Hispanic was, he's like, dude, I ain't never seen nobody talk to him like that. You know, and for me,
that's the problem, bro. Because the people he work with don't even let him know. That's what be killing me. Mm-hmm. It be too many yes sir as black cops, bro. They just do what they do fit in.
I tell people this all the time whenever they come up to me with this whole bad apple situation. Have you ever seen fruit, a tomato, like a rotten tomato next to a good tomato? You know what happens to that other tomato? It gets rotten too. Like that whole bad apple joint don't make no sense to me, because if you've ever seen real fruit, it contaminates. That's what it does. It's a bacteria. It's a fungus. It travels. So it's one bad apple. No, that means you got to cut down the fucking tree.
Yeah. And he's in a position of power. He's not like a regular police officer, which makes him more dangerous.
It makes him more dangerous.
Because everybody got to follow his lead. Yeah. And no reason a lieutenant should be pulling anybody over.
Yeah.
Their whole job is to come oversee what everybody else doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why you just walk. Anytime a white shirt people, I'm just you're that boy. All right, let's do this, loser face.
Somebody must have made his ass go out.
No, for sure. So if there's nothing else for chapter 4, then we'll push on to chapter 5. And this is where shit kind of got confusing for me. I don't know if it was because I got the bootleg version, but immediately we get this dynamic, this role reversal, and we get to see Freeman in a vulnerable spot here. What was the first thing that you noticed about this early conversation with Joy?
For me, I felt like Joy she was one of them, you know. I feel like her parents she was light skinned off back.
That's what came in my head.
He was fine.
It annoyed me that she wanted to like forget about where she came from. You know, she's like, yeah, but that was the whole point. Are you leaving? Like that shouldn't be the point of you getting to where you get just to be gone.
Yeah, it doesn't make you.
You still have family there.
It doesn't help you. Like if I can't, me becoming successful doesn't help me if I can't come back home. Like if I can't come back to Cal City, if I can't go back to Nigeria without, someone looking at me like this, like, what the fuck you doing here? Then did I really achieve anything? Joy struck me. I know Joy's.
Oh yeah, almost definitely.
Like we all know. I don't know if they all not light skinned. There's some dark skinned ones too. But
it's rare though.
But seeing Freeman be vulnerable. This is the first time we're seeing our protagonist has a weakness. He has a dent in his armor, and that that kind of set me off.
It actually, when she was introduced, I thought back to the light skinned dude from the HBCU, and like why his disdain for that type of person, like where it come from. Like I can deal with her, like this my woman, but like. You kind of as you go through chapter 5, you also realize like they didn't make it, and he got a certain disdain for that type of person, and he's had that conversation probably 1,000 times. And it also kind of flashed me forward to now, and it's something that I consciously do. Like even when I talk to my wife, like we talk about like making sure that as we continue to progress in life, like we not separating ourselves. I want everybody to know where we from, who we are. Even through State Farm, we do I am who I am, and I posted my, where I'm from, how I got here, and everything about that, because that's actually my advantage, like where I'm from. that's what separate. That's what makes me special in the positions that I'm coming from. So you can't separate that. So
Rob, did you have a problem with Joy's dynamic? Like how she was for the first time in this story, there was someone telling Freeman what he's going to do.
I feel like Joy was trained slash brainwashed by her parents to do exactly as they said, you know.
Yeah.
And as she became an adult, she did exactly what they said, right? Which was go find you a black man that's the most successful. Period.
Mm.
Period. And I feel like that's what it came down to. Her, the guy that like Boy Freeman sees her with. That's who we saw her with, the guy who her parents wanted with, instead of him.
Yeah.
No,
But she loved him so much she wanted him to be that.
she did, and that was the first time Freeman becomes apparently clear because as smart as Freeman is, his intellectual mind, it's easy to say he could have been a lawyer or a doctor, but the fact that is then revealed to us that she suggested him being a lawyer, and she immediately, and he says, yeah, I thought about that and I can do that, and she immediately counters and says, you hate those type of people, you have a physical reaction to those type of people, so you can never be one of them. So this let me know that Freeman's resolve, while early, isn't solidified. He took that first L, and then we do the flashback scenario where he meets, and this is what my impression was, because he says the lawyer or the doctor, so meaning he already knows which one she was probably going to take, and so I have to assume that this was a flashback where the first time he met her, but I wasn't sure if this was like post, like okay, after this conversation, they finally got married and they're out one night and he runs into them, or was this a flashback? That part wasn't clear to me, but it became inherently
I thought it was a flashback because he knew who she had
picked already, and that's
So
what
I
I
thought
kind
they
of
were
figured.
trying to
Yeah,
show like him come walking up to that.
and at that point, I kind of was like, dang. So he's already seen this L from a mile away, but he was just indulging himself, and that's a level of narcissism that I wasn't really comfortable with, because I don't know how that made me feel, because now we're seeing armors and flaws, and now I'm starting to be able to point out flaws in his own ideology. Like, if you knew that you had no shot with her, why would you get this involved with her? Like, you were able to have sex with the whore just 3 chapters ago and have no emotion, but you were willing to call her the queen. And here is your queen, and now you're not, fighting for it. So it's kind of strange.
Nah, for me, it would feel like he spent too much. Like for him, he got to a point where like I spent too much time trying to get her to see the better light of us and our people. So I'm not gonna fight any further because it ain't gonna help it. Like she'll later on in life probably see it, because it always happens. You always see it later on in life how special you are and your people are. Especially when you already had somebody tell you, probably take another person to let you know. But she'll eventually see it, and then she'll regret it because that dude that she's gonna be with gonna get boring.
Go ahead, JB.
Well, I took it in another way with Freeman, just like he wasn't putting anything above what his mission was. Like he wasn't even as hurt as he was, because I took it as hurt, not anything else. As hurt as he was like, well, my people and what I'm doing, I want you to be happy. Like, if marriage gonna make you happy, go get married. But I can't stop what I'm doing because I view what you talking about so wrong. I love you, but go be happy.
But did he? Okay, is that in chapter 5 where he like trying to move his job, or is that chapter 6? Because didn't he move after that back to
And
Chicago?
I have to admit, this is where I get lost, because this is when my book gets ghetto. Like, my bootleg version let me down right here. So I literally, this is the line I stopped was after he introduced himself to he introduced himself to the boyfriend sitting across from Joy. Then my book started talking about some Roman Greek type stuff, and I was like, okay, this ain't the
I
same.
thought he ends up back with the general in chapter 6, and they talking about that. But
Well, because he was still working with them, but I thought he was like working in Chicago too, or something. There was something going on.
It was a
to where
break.
It
was a break. So like he had left to go to Chicago and do his own thing, but he had to go back to New York eventually. I think it was like 6 weeks they had off or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna reread that shit too though. Anyway, because that got to. I'm like, maybe I'm past what
So
we
what
were
was the
supposed to
last thing
read.
that happened in chapter 5?
He talked to them and then he left out. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
Yeah, he
and that was
talked to
the
him and left.
The guy
okay.
Frank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the boyfriend name was Frank. All right, so that pretty much concludes our 5 chapter review of this. We're gonna jump right into the discussion part. We got 10 minutes left. It does. I mean, I feel like we were pretty thorough about the book, covering the chapters. So this doesn't have to necessarily fall into the book, but it's you guys. We got 10 minutes to let it ride. So there it is. Just off top, how you got on a scale of 1 to 10? What do you think of the book right now?
I'm intrigued. I honestly would give it a 10 because it speaks to so many different aspects of what it is to be kind of navigating multiple worlds. I wrote down a few words that stuck out. So assimilation, being that token brother throughout, and then navigating the multiple personalities that he has to. So like those things and I think they're gonna keep popping up, because we still black hit it, like we still talking about the first black president or the first black this, and it all started with that token mentality, like we just gonna put one of them in an area to make them happy, and even one of my mentors, he talks to me about being a trailblazer, like how you got to try to navigate and doing the world. So I think that it's gonna be, I'm curious to see where it's going.
Rob?
I think for me, reading through the books and like with chapter 1, right? The first takeaway when I read the first 2 paragraphs, I was like, oh, this is Biden right here. Right? The senator's Biden in my eyes. And depending on your viewpoint, that token black person can be perceived as Obama.
I'm gonna ask you to extrapolate on that one
because this is, and I was talking I statements, right? Because I don't want to speak for anyone, but I felt like as the president, sure, you're the leader of the free world, but you still kind of have to consult a room full of people, and 10 times out of 10, it's gonna be a room full of white people, right? So sure, he's the president, but he can only do so much. He has to roam within the confines that's given to him. And I feel like if he being Obama, were to go too far extreme outside of those confines, man, they would have assassinated that brother.
I mean, they would. You can definitely speak to that, but after going through 4 years of Trump, it's very clear that the president doesn't live by the same rules that the rest of the people country. It speaks, if anything, it speaks more to Obama's respect of the office before you speak to the sort of hidden, hey, you better stay in line. No, he understands where the lines are and they're there for a reason. JB?
So
and for him though, he did put around people to diversify the shit out of folks on a regular basis, because he had a lot of chicks, and then he had black people. He had a bunch of people around it, so he had diversified. And it definitely is like a side of fucking Biden, bro. When it came to that white man, he wanted to be friends with the white people, and that's what annoyed me, because it's so many sections of the Democratic Party that's split up, and we keep choosing the same portion of them.
It's
Biden. It's what I think it's like 3 or 4 different portions of the Democratic Party alone that's separate.
I'll speak to that a little bit later, but go ahead, JB.
No, I was just gonna say with Obama, I always found it crazy that he became president as fast as he did, and the pace in which he accelerated through Washington. I think he was a senator for 2 years and only going up for his second term, and I always felt like it's impossible for him to be what he could have been as a president. So to Rob's point, like I think that people knew it. Black had me watch the Malcolm X, who assassinated Malcolm X, and like once you start to really know about like what the FBI capable of and the CIA, like I think people really knew the power that Obama had, and it's like, let's hurry up and make this nigga president before he become what he can become. as a president.
Let's get him on our line before we have to take out his line. Like there's something to be realized there. I want to speak to something that this book is questioning: the definition of success in the Black culture. Throughout this chapter, we've met a variety of Black people, and even to some extent, even with the street workers and their level of success, to have an apartment in downtown DC, even if it was 10 years ago, you're still talking about 60. Yeah, that's not a cheap endeavor.
Hey, DC was always Chocolate City, though. It was always Chocolate City.
Yeah, it still is. Like as hard as they're trying to put them fucking Targets and Whole Foods down there, it don't matter. Like you're not going. Howard is Howard. So the level of success that comes through to me is sort of eerie to me, because you do see this mindset where it's like it's never enough, and we all have established ourselves to a certain extent, and by no means are we at our peak, but what does success look like to you guys based on like seeing the trajectory that Freeman is taking? Because he's not just successful, he could be a general. Like he has the mindset. His greatness is being locked away. So what does success look like to you guys?
For me, I think success is getting the game from the people who's been playing it the longest and giving it to you and taking it back to your people for them to win. For me, that's success. I mean, because I feel like in my profession, there's two type of Black men. And what I mean by that, and there's one Black man who's like, I'm going to do this, fuck y'all. And and they climb fast, right? But there's another type of they will tell you, right? But there's another type who like, you know what? I'm going to take the long work. I'm going to take the long route. And those people play the long game, and they're like, look, okay, I'm going to be successful, but these 5 people behind me are going to be successful too. Mm-hmm. And it's longer for those people because they're not just doing it for themselves. But I feel like the latter is the true definition of success for me. I
feel like we right at that point where it is about to become the faster route, though. Mm-hmm. Like is we right at a bridge point, and
as it should be.
Yeah, as it should be. And when you talk about the definition of success, I wrote down, I remember in the book the general talked about how far behind our development is, and I actually had a conversation with one of my white counterparts in my office, and we was talking about going through Juneteenth and all of these other discussions. And I told him, I said, I broke down the 400 years for him of progression, and why we still feel the way that we do. I said, it wasn't until 60 years ago that we was actually getting some of the opportunities that y'all already built up, and we trying to navigate into your world and explaining that to them. How many of them don't even understand that? I don't know.
We was given opportunity to take those, take them, but we wasn't given the damn thing. They would give it. They was like handed to them.
Right.
It was put up to a certain level to where we can jump and grab it or fight to get up there.
Right.
But it wasn't like
gotta beat each other up to get it.
Yeah, I always explain it like lacrosse or tennis or golf. Like if Black people could play golf as soon as they could play soccer, football, or basketball as easily, we'd be the champions of that too. Lacrosse and everything. Like
look at Tiger Woods.
Yeah, like it's all about access. Your ability to access something dictates it to you. Like my first time on the golf course, I was up there swinging, like I'm ambidextrous. I'm just swinging, trying. And one white dude, probably like 55 years old, walks up to me and says, "Hey man, swing with your left." And I hit with a 5-iron, a ball like 273 yards. And everybody's jaw hit the damn ground. And they were like, "You said this your first time up?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah. This ain't nothing to me." And the white dude walked off and said, You got something there, son. You got something. It's just about access.
It's sport to us.
Yeah.
It's a sport to us at the end of the day. And like, we different. And one thing kind of you was talking about a little bit, but what stood out to me in the book when we talk about Freeman is I think he shows us how or even with the general, I think they know how good we are. Like if they can combine the brains with the athleticism, they usurp us. My dad asked me a long time ago. He's like, "Why are they so scared of us?" It's because they know that. You know that at the end of the day, like they already athletic. Like if we add some brains to them, like what's we gotta.
But they know we was smart though. It
Yeah,
wasn't like
that's
they
why
were
they
just
kept
trying
us
to.
from reading and
They were
stuff.
yeah. They
Exactly.
was trying to
They
not.
didn't
They
want
was
us
just
to
trying to
know
not
how smart
acknowledge it. Yeah. They didn't. That too.
Acknowledging greatness
Yeah.
gives you power. Like
Yeah.
it's the reason why heart is the one stat that no one can ever account for. It's just the drive that wanting to survive and wanting to be the best of the best. But I mean, for all it's worth, I mean, we definitely have to say that I'm happy we started this book. I immediately started thinking of other books that we could jump onto, but I'm definitely excited to get through this book. So I think we're good for another maybe. I mean, we went through this. It's 1 o'clock on the dot. That's all I'm saying is, as the host of the first time of our first book club meeting, that's some good ass timing for me. Like I'm just saying, just acknowledge that. I'm just patting myself on the back. I did this shit. I'm just saying it.
Hey
And
man,
as
that's what's
far
up,
for me,
man.
being successful is always self-defined for me. I've been saying this for the past few years. Like your level of success is going to be self-defined. So if you feel that you're successful and you're happy with where you are, happiness is your success.
Yeah.
You get to a point where you can be like, man, I'm glad I'm doing this. This is what I want to do. I mean, if you want to advance that level, then bam, you can do that. You set your goals to what makes you successful. Don't let nobody else define it. So that way, you never feel like it ain't good enough for you. Because that'd be too many people be stuck on that. Be like, man, I ain't at this point in life, so I ain't successful. Nah, man, you know, once you happy about getting up, you successful.
So it's funny you say that. I always say one, comparison is the thief of joy. Two,
Yeah.
I was just telling my wife maybe a couple of days ago, I said athletes and entertainers make you feel like you're supposed to be somewhere in your life that is really not attainable unless you're an athlete or entertainer. And now today with tech, right? So like if you're not in those three fields, you shouldn't be looking at being a millionaire before you're 30. Like it's possible, but you shouldn't be tracking your life like that.
Yeah.
So
And I feel like social media makes it even more daunting because that information is so easily attainable. And I feel like even beyond just success, like relationships are that much more difficult. Because I mean, hey, you got them at a swipe.
Yeah. And he be like, man, people can't be like I love when he rotate focus on focusing, because people will be like they look at what they have and always compare it to everything else, like he said. Like you don't need to compare, like, because there's always something or someone better than what you have.
I always tell people,
but you got to find what you have that you love. You know what I mean, you don't have to go for the best of the team, because you got to look at yourself too. You are not the best of everything for that next person.
I always tell people the saddest people I've ever met in my life is when I was in the NFL. I literally would sit there and watch millionaires crying in their mansions, and I walk up to them in my little 2-door apartment while I'm playing for an NFL team. Like, dang, what's wrong, bro? He's like, man, they forgot my damn guac with my salad. I'm like, that's what's bringing tears to your grown ass eyes. They forgot a topping on your salad. I had to walk here and get on a bus just to come and bring you this stuff as a freshman on the team, bro. He's like, and I appreciate you for that. I'm like, you have whole chefs at your disposal, bro. One ingredient's missing and it changed your life. But hey, success is the definition.
But those people are different though. Like
oh no, they don't live in our world. You should never try it. And that was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. It's seeing them at an early age at 21 and seeing that, I'll tell y'all this story. This was an experience. When I got picked up from the airport, my first day in New York, I got picked up by JPP. And he was the phenom from last year, $90 million. So he pulled up in the Bugatti, threw me the keys. You drive. TMZ, everybody taking pictures and stuff. I'm shaking because I don't know how to drive this car. Like, I tap on the gas, we go 0 to 60, boom, I'm down the street. I'm zooming. He's like, first thing he says, first thing we got to do is take you to go get some clothes because you look like shit. And you can't be driving a good ass car like this looking like shit unless you're doing shit. And I was just so confused and baffled. It was like, first things first, we need to get you some sunglasses. He says, pull down the visor. And grab my glasses. So I pull down the visor, put on the glasses, right? And I see these papers fly out of the window because he got the windows down. And one of them land on my lap. And I look down, it's a check for $75,000. So I jam on the brakes. Open the door. Hey, what you doing? there's money out there. He says, we don't stop for money. And right then and there, my idea, my mind melting. I felt my fucking brains bleeding through my nose because they don't live in this world. Money is a figment of their imagination. And that's when I knew, oh no, I can't compare myself to these guys. I have to get in, get the fuck out. So success is really the definition you make it. Really.
That's why I went into the financial advising world in the first place, man. Like looking at some of those stats, like 60% of them going broke, and y'all don't know what y'all can do. Like that's 75,000 that's flying out the window. Like you don't know what you can do with that.
That's a down payment.
But at one point in your life, they understood, and it's just about like getting them back to where you understand, because you are turned into a millionaire overnight. Your life changed. Like,
and that's what I was about to talk about, though. As far as like, that's why I'm saying they're not the same. But I was talking about their maturity level. For sports figures and entertainers, they grow so quick and financially, but their mind still at the same level. A lot of them are not mature enough to manage their money. They'll care about their money. That's why, you know, Rob talking about Nip and people of that nature, like Jay-Z and people like that, they thought about that in advance. They wasn't worried about the look so much and everything else. Like NFL players and, you know, sports figures, they always think about the look. A lot of them.
Entertainment.
They think about the look, and you know, you see Westbrook. He might look like a clown, but that shit expensive. But for football, everybody don't get $90 million. Most of the motherfuckers not getting a lot at all. And and people complain like they make all that money. You be like, no, they make enough money because it's 1 million people watching them. They need to get some of that money. They're not getting all the money that everybody else getting. They coaches, I mean, not, you know, the owners and shit. They getting billions for that shit. You mad this motherfucker getting a couple dollars when another motherfucker getting $1,000.
Yeah, you over here mad that some dude
right
$1,000 and taking a knee while homeboy owner over there owns half your city and isn't paying the electric bill. Like he got the stadium on all night, all week for 6 months, and not paying the time on the electric bill. Meanwhile,
and your bill is high because
your bill is high as shit.
They don't even pay taxes.
He paid $750. That's what I'm about to try to get. 15 of the 30 plus I pay.
I Google like, who is his account? He cold. Whoever his tax person is cold.
But they marking everything down as a loss, and they not even really giving a fuck that they doing it.
The NFL is a non-for-profit organization, which is crazy to me.
Nobody ever talks about that. 503c.
Insane. How y'all non-for-profit? We be talking about it in our group, like we talk about churches like the NFL, bro. Like the NFL, the biggest sports conglomerate in the world is non-for-profit. Crazy.
Finesse. And that's what I mean by learning the game and giving it to your people.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, they can do that. Like people get so have been on Trump. Like, oh, he only paid. It was like, why not instead? Like, okay, that happened. How can we do that?
Yeah. Right. How can I do
that? I tell people, I'm like, get your business. No matter what the fuck it is. If you want some money, claim them as losses or pay enough taxes. But some people people like to get money back for their taxes. So I always tell them like, put a little bit extra into your taxes, then you get all that back. Every portion you pay extra, you get all of that back. But you can also just pay what you're supposed to on the dot. So you don't have to worry about getting anything back or paying anything. You just be able to use that money while you got it. But some people try to get that money like during the year. When they get it, they're gonna spend it. So it's better for them to just put that little extra into their tax so they get that shit back. Or get a business, claim a loss. But you don't want to claim a loss all the time because it depends on what you're trying to do with your business. If all you want to do for tax season is get a couple extra grand, cool. But you ain't gonna be able to take that business to the next level. If somebody looking at it like, okay, do I want to join them? Like, no, they go for losses every year. Why I want to join them? I can't do shit with this dude. He can't manage his business right. He said he can't claiming losses.
Well, I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, fellas, I appreciate y'all, man. I think this was a great discussion. Hey, this is the first one. Clap it up. You guys are the four horsemen right now. So like, congratulations, y'all, man.
And we're gonna have to talk about that too in the group. Like, it's Sunday. Half the group members ain't going to church. You know, y'all got time.
And hey, I don't hold it against nobody because like I'm on call right now, so they could have called me and I would have been like, all right, deuces, y'all, and that's it. I'm on my superhero shit. But
yeah, you could have muted us.
Muted y'all down to
Took us with you.
We could have all walked into that surgery room without do rags.
They damn right. You know what? 4 brothers, we here to help. But I appreciate you guys real quick. JB, Rob, Black, man. It's been great having you guys here. This is a great discussion. This is the first books in Beyond the Male Book Club. And we were able to talk about we're reading the book, The Spook That Sits at the, I always get this wrong. I always want to say Spook That Sits by the Window, but it's the door. It's a radio one too. I got to see what that one is about also. There's a movie on it too. It's like from the 60s, but it's or the 80s rather, but it's a good I'm gonna check out all 3 platforms. But I appreciate you guys coming on, man. You guys give a little sign out. Is there anything anybody want to shout out, anything like that?
Man, see y'all this time next week. Hopefully we can get a few more.
Yeah, and I want y'all to check out, if y'all ain't seen that, who killed Malcolm X on Netflix, check it out. So because it's crazy the people that you see who did know and who knows, and then nobody did nothing about it, and how the people who knew, like Devin Booker fucking knew. And he was running for president, just a couple years ago. Yeah, he knew who killed Malcolm X, and he's just like, yeah, we don't talk about them.
It's so crazy, man, where he was going mentally, and that's what we had to make sure. It go back to kind of the Obama thing, like we got to make sure he gone. Like, they can't know about this. So,
definitely. Rob, any plugs?
I'm just looking forward to next week's discussion. This is real good.
Now, man, I'm happy we're able to do this. Well, from us to you guys, take care of yourselves. Hey, go register, go vote, do the census, do all the responsible things you're supposed to, and we'll see you guys here 1 week from today.
Hey, Black, I'm putting my project in the building in my background the next one too, since you want the same ways of yours.
Hey, I had Chicago, and I'm like, hold up, man, they ain't really me. Downtown ain't our shit. Let me put my buildings up.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about, Black. Keep it real, man, because I was gonna call you out for it, but I saw it change twice. I was like, okay, everybody from Cal City, all of a sudden they from Chicago. Man, you used to get on the same bus as me. Don't you sit here and lie.
This is where I'm from right here, boy. I ain't gonna put Cal City. That's a lie.
All right.